Welcome to No Cartridge Audio. My name is Trevor Strunk, Hagelbon on Twitter, and I'm here today with the man the man, the myth, the legend, here to tell us the truth about Drangleic. It's Mr. Felix Biederman himself. It feels like it hasn't been this long, which is troubling.
4 or 5 years since I've been on.
It's been years since you've been on this show.
Yeah, because I remember it was like 3 apartments ago when I last recorded with you, the Metal Gear episode. I lived in a really small place where like I just did all my work like on a bed.
That's a classic New York apartment though.
It had like a lofted bedroom.
Ooh.
That had like a 6-foot ceiling. That place like absolutely sucked. I always felt like I got like conned into living there.
The only time I lived in New York, I lived in a place in Brooklyn, which was like way nicer than I should have been able to get. Like the owner definitely was like mobbed up somehow or another. Like he definitely had like his office just had, a bunch of filing cabinets and a calendar and never got any work done in it. But there'd always be like 5 or 6 guys just hanging out in it and stuff. But he loved me. And so I got a pretty nice apartment, but I took the small room and my roommate took the nice room. And so the small room ended up like it was basically just a closet with my bed in it. So I remember that. It's just like, oh yeah.
That's where Mullen lived with me and Amber.
Oh yeah.
It's like that type of room. Yeah.
It's a terrible room to live in. It's like, it's one of those rooms that you can convince yourself to live in. And then after you've done it for like a month or two, you're like, this is making me like actually go insane. Like I'm not going to make it out of this the same person.
I lived in a bunch of just like awful places like that where it's like you just try not to think about how awful it is.
Yeah, I mean that's sort of like, it seems like that's what everyone just does in New York all the time. And like I know it's become a cliche, but I don't know. It's not a city with like a lot of, and I know that you're extremely Chicago pilled despite living in New York. So what I'm going to say will not come as something controversial to you, I'm assuming. But when I lived in Chicago, I found like getting a nice apartment there was a million times easier.
Oh, it is. It like absolutely is. I'm getting like my first like really nice place here,
Hell
and
yeah.
it's like I can only get it because of COVID, like because of people like leaving where I'm moving to. But
COVID's making New York like the 1970s for you. Like people are just fleeing en masse.
I mean, I feel like it's gonna go right back up, and I have to do it now. Like, I don't know. All those fucking places cost so much more than like any place should. Like when you just compare it to like a place like Chicago, but well, I mean, what am I gonna do? Not get it? No. I'm gonna get this place that's like it's like would be an acceptable middle class living situation, pretty much anywhere else in the country, but like
it's like it's a weird situation because like you can complain about it, and like I mean I encourage anyone to complain about it, but like it's one of those things where you're also just like, well, I mean everyone pays these prices in New York, so it's not like it's not like they're not gonna charge them,
Yeah, exactly.
Like these landlords are not terribly like considerate people traditionally. Not that they like, I mean, they're just selling a building. Why would they charge you less? So, well, I'm glad that you're getting a nice place, dude. That'll be great. And I'm sure you're going to give out.
It'll be it's going to be my flop era, or whatever, whatever that means. Whatever
you're
people
just like go in psycho mode every day.
Yeah, I am. It is. I mean, I actually I think I made the decision to do this once I started playing Souls because after exploring Anne Orlando, I was like, dude, I want to live in an evil place.
I gotta either you gotta live in Gwendolyn's Anne Orlando, or you just have to go like way down there, get to the Shadow Keeper, kill her sister, and like make Anne Orlando dark and evil. Like it's one or the other. If you're not living that dream, I don't know. You're right. You got to change it. You got to change something.
Yeah, I was looking at the neighborhood, and I was like, this is exactly like where Gwen would live. If he was a real guy. Like the Gwen of Manhattan.
Hollowed Gwen or non-hollowed Gwen?
Not hollowed Gwen. Like Guinevere would live here. Like it's like he would be like, oh yeah, my daughter can live here.
It's like looking for colleges for her and stuff.
Yeah, Guinevere definitely went to two. I mean, like Yeah, Guinevere, NYU girl. Gwendolyn, where do you think? Like Bard or something?
Oh yeah, Bard. Yeah, no, something a little more, something a little bit more like alt, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, Smith. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, he like Sarah Lawrence, perhaps.
Definitely one of the sisters. I think absolutely.
Yeah.
We're getting close here. Well, in case anyone was wondering what we were talking about, Wonder No Longer. Felix is on now because you've gotten like super into the Souls series. Like you're into the Soulsborne games, and God knows I am too. So why not? Like what better time to get you back on the show? So let me ask you. I'm actually probably just going to ask you a bunch more about what neighborhoods are, what areas. Like, well, let me ask you this now: what is the blight town of New York City to you?
I mean that's hard. I think like as in terms of like shittiest, it would be like I don't know, like as far as like most economically deprived, it'd probably have to be like East New York or something.
Well, yeah, that's the tough part about Blighttown. It's just like a crummy place because it doesn't seem like there's anything there. So you don't want to shit on the people who can afford better.
But sure. I mean, like the spiritual Blighttown, rather, where it's like,
yes.
Okay, I don't think this place is like deprived. It's like as sucks as much as Blighttown, but in real life. Yeah, I would say like Midtown or like Murray Hill. Midtown might be the dreg heap.
I see it. I can see it.
It's just underpinned by the dark dregs of humanity.
And like those areas, like any of the poison swamp areas in the Miyazaki game, it feels like at a certain point you shouldn't like if you're there past a certain time, like everything's gonna close in on you. Like you're in Midtown past 8, everything closes down. It's like if you're in the poison swamp for longer than like 2 hours at a time, your character is just gonna like give up on you at some point. You're gonna find some giant roach who's gonna just own you, and you'll have to start over again.
Yeah, the Midtown cops. I don't know. Maybe Upper East Side is probably like Lothric. Upper West Side, and Orlando.
I like that.
Yeah, Lothric is. I fucking love Lothric.
Okay. What about Lothric do you love?
So, like, Lothric Castle is probably my favorite level in DS3.
Okay.
And I like it because it's like, well, this is all the areas. Like, the point of all the areas is that it's like a once like awe-inspiring and still kind of like awe-inspiring place. It's like a really now shitty, depressing place. But like Lothric especially gets that because it's like you're seemingly like in the middle of like a confusing war. So like it's like there are a bunch of hollows everywhere, which is like that's just like
typical
normal level design. But the garrisons of knights protecting the twin princes I love, because it's like oh, this is the end of this kingdom. This is the end of this kingdom. There's no coming back from this, of these two, of the Prince Lorien rejecting the flame. There's no, like, this is the end of the line. These two aren't, like, burying kids or anything. You just have these, like, fucked up twins. One of them can't talk and his legs fell off. Like, it's just so thoroughly upsetting. Yeah. And I feel, like, the architecture and everything is the most interesting. Like, I hate levels like Undead Settlement.
Okay.
And, like, any really dungeon level. Like, I hate Lothric Dungeon.
Okay.
Because I don't like the feeling... I think it's, like, good direction in a lot of ways, but I don't like the feeling of being that closed in. I think, like, the levels and the heights of somewhere like Undead Settlement are kind of boring. Same with Profane Capital. I like that, this is, like, a Lothric Dungeon... Or not Lothric Dungeon, but Lothric Castle is, like, closed in, but... Or not closed in, that it's so big and so open feeling, and there's so much actual room for exploration. Like, it could be 3 separate levels. I mean, it kind of is.
Well, Well, it's sort of like, I mean, like, so I was talking to you about this before. This is like, so I think I know I don't cite you in the Dark Souls chat. I'm pretty sure I cite our podcast in the Metal Gear chapter of my book because it was like one of those things that kind of got me thinking about it more. But I was thinking about this because one of the things in the book is like I sort of thinking through all the games I realized I had this problem with 3, that like all the games were variations on themes, right? Like it's sort of like you familiar with like Commedia dell'arte, like the old Italian theater at all?
No, not really.
Yeah, you don't have to be, but like, the basic premise is they would like you'd get like archetypes basically. So you'd get like a particular character, like this particular jester or this particular like fool or whatever would be in every single play, but different actors would always play them, so it'd always be slightly different, right? Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how I think about Dark Souls, where like you get the crestfallen knight in every single game, but he's never the crestfallen knight, right? Like he's only the crestfallen knight really in Dark Souls. Like in every other game, he's slightly different.
Yeah.
And with Dark Souls 3 sort of coming back and repeating that stuff, I have a hard time understanding, like, do I like that? Do I not like it? But your description of Lothric Castle there is actually really helpful to me because like it's kind of interesting to think about it as like another play on Anor Londo, right? Like,
yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, like people complained about like what the Anor Londo level is like, where it's like people get really excited, but it's actually quite closed in, and there's not a lot of exploration. And it's like they're like, oh, it feels like a shell of its former self, and it's like, yeah, it's almost like that's the point of it, that it is a shell of like what Anor Londo was, but like. Right. Lothric, which is like, a presumably much more recent kingdom and recent place. It's very expansive feeling, and it's like you can tell its good times were much closer to now. Mm-hmm. But it just overall hits better, I guess, in that way.
No, I agree. Yeah, no, that's there's just no other way to say it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's like there's I don't know. Have you played Demon Souls?
No, I'm gonna play that. I have a PS5. I really want.
Okay, yeah. So one of the things about Demon Souls that I really like, and I think you'll like too, is it does that thing too, where like the grandeur of the places you're in, of Boletaria, is like way closer than the grandeur of say like, I mean certainly than the grandeur of say like Undead Burg. Right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You go into Undead Burg, you're like, wow, this place has been real bad for a really long time.
Well, I like Undead Burg.
Oh yeah, I like playing it, but it's like it's grim.
Yeah. I'm really excited for Demon Souls in that sense because it like, from what I've seen, it just seems like a huge Lothric castle, which like great.
In so many ways, it is. Yeah, and like definitely the areas in the beginning and sort of like towards the end when you're in Boletaria are like, they're just like, it feels like you're just in this like area that isn't ruined yet. It's bad, but like you get the feeling, like, I don't know if you do you ever pay attention to the actual sort of like, and this is gonna sound weird, I know, like it's hard to play these games and enjoy them without like paying attention to some of the lore, right? Like the lore
right.
is interesting. But like the overarching sort of like initial story where they're like, oh, like especially at the beginning of the game when they're like, oh, like such and such invited demons upon the land, and that usually just like I usually can't pay attention to it until I'm like pretty far into the game.
Yeah,
like, I can tell you the plot of all the games, but like when you get the opening cinematic, like it's just kind of generic fantasy stuff on purpose.
That's like 3. Like I definitely felt that way with, because like I only played 3 because I like got really into Sekiro, and like Sekiro was a game where it's like it starts out the same way. You're like, oh, the samurais conquered a place, and like now it sucks. Yeah, we've never seen that before. But like you actually like go deeper into it, and it's like, oh, this is a really fucking like actually pretty well done story. As I learned, like way more straightforward than most FromSoft stories. But like,
oh yeah, and got a lot of like people got real mad about that even. Like not interested in doing that. Which people were just like, well, where's the lore, man? Like where do I get my lore fix?
Well, that's like
down.
There is a lot of lore in Sekiro. It's just like
Yeah.
people just get confused because like they didn't have to like cross 3 invisible walls and like do
They
all
didn't have
this
to
shit
read like
for it.
seven little item descriptions to get there. Right.
I
Yeah,
mean,
and like
lore
okay.
is still in item descriptions and shit. It's just like it's a different thing. But I love that game. Because it's like, you think you're getting like generic hack and slash. Like when I was first picked it up, I was like, okay, this is just like Assassin's Creed. And then you play it and you beat it enough times, you're like, I mean, like, yeah, it's like good Assassin's Creed. That's why I love it so much. It's like, it's such a flex. They're like, yeah, what if we made one of these games and it was good? Like,
No, you're absolutely right. And like, I think, well, first off, I'm gonna just ask: is your new love of apes? Does that come from bonding with the apes in Sekiro? I mean, you have to sort of like you have to learn to love them in a certain way, the giant apes.
It's weird, right? Because it's like, well, your mentor, well, kind of a mentor. I don't know really what you'd call him. Sort
Owl?
of like
or the
sculptor.
Carving.
His name is Orangutan.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, yeah. Everyone has a monk or an animal name, and his is Orangutan.
There's so many monkeys in that game.
Yeah, it's sad. I don't know if did you do the gauntlets in Sekiro?
Remind me what they are. I know, like, so I know I left some content undone. I didn't kill Owl a second time. So I might not have. I did a lot of it. I finished Ishin and all that, but maybe I didn't. I definitely did Demon of Hatred. Well, maybe not. Well, explain them anyway.
Okay. So gauntlets are like they're the thing that should have been in all of these games. It's a boss rush mode, basically.
Oh yeah, okay. I didn't
like,
do it, but I love it. Yeah.
You can rest in between bosses, but you just basically have to kill like, you'll have to do in an easier gauntlet. It'll be like Gyobu Aniwa, Lady Butterfly, and like Genichiro or someone like that, and like get through them without dying. I mean, you can do the die where you resurrect, not just like not full die, but
right.
For the harder ones, you get some cool shit. Like, it's the only way you can reskin yourself without a mod.
Oh, okay.
Is if you beat these. But, like, there's one gauntlet, one of the harder ones. You get this thing called Dragon Flash, which is, like, one of Ishin Ashina's cool moves. You can destroy any monkey with one of those if you're on New Game Plus and you have a fucking Dragon Flash. And
I love that I
did that every time to the monkey army, and it felt terrible.
Well, listen, like I like a friend of mine who also for a while ran our Twitter, the No Cartridge Twitter. My friend Talia had a running gag where she would just say like it is X amount of time since Sekiro has been released and Miyazaki still has not patched out the ape. Like the just like those constant, like how like unfair and mean they felt. Like her ongoing gag was like, yeah, well, soon he'll patch out the ape. The ape's got to go soon. Don't worry.
Well, that's what's so weird to me is like now. Okay, so like Demon of Hatred, one of like definitely the hardest like non-human fight in the game, and like the ape is the same way. But it's like now, okay, I played Bloodborne. I played a lot of Souls. I played like the Bloodborne DLC. I consider myself now have been like caught up on this, right?
Yeah, you beat the Orphan of Kaz. You can say that.
Yeah. I beat Orphan of Kaz. I beat Lawrence.
Lawrence is tough. Orphan of Kaz gave me more trouble, but I know that that's not common.
Orphan of Kaz only. I'm really not bragging with this. Orphan of Kaz took me 2 tries, whereas like Lawrence and what's his name, the horse guy, Ludwig. Those combined probably took me like 50 or 60 tries. It's like I clearly struggle with like one type of boss versus another.
Yeah, I mean these games are weird that way because like depending on how you play the game, it's just gonna like you're gonna come up against these bosses and someone will be like, yeah, like that boss totally like ruined me. I couldn't do it.
Yeah, well,
and it's like no, actually, like that boss was easy for me. What was the boss that was hard for you? Like, what was this one? Like, no one has like a like outside of why am I forgetting their names? The obvious ones, the 2 from Anne Orlando. Help me out.
Smoke and Ornstein.
Yeah,
the one Jewish guy in Dark Souls, Ornstein.
At least they make him pretty tough.
Yeah, he is a tough. He's like a tough, like thin, tall, severe Jewish man.
I guess.
Who said night.
Yeah.
His mom's so disappointed.
Miyazaki's playing with stereotypes there. It's just like,
yeah.
It's very, but yeah, no. Like those guys, I think everyone agrees are hard. But, at least the first time you face them. But like everyone, like I've never heard a consensus on anyone else. Like this is like the hardest boss or this is the hardest boss. It's always up to your own interpretation.
Yeah. I mean, like I at this point, like I know what I do and don't struggle with. Like with a humanoid type fight where I can parry, I think I do pretty well just from having like started with Sekiro and like.
Did you parry Gwyn?
I haven't gotten to Gwyn yet in 1. I'm really excited for Gwyn because it's like, there's no parry fight at the end of 3. There are some awesome fights you can have towards the end game of 3, but like only Gundyr is parryable. And you can actually parry Lothric and you can parry the armor, Dragon Slayer armor. I mean, another Return of Ornstein, but it's like kind of ill-advised. Like, why would you do that with them? You can't even like repost Dragon Slayer armor. So, like, why bother?
It's tough. Like, I got to tell you, it's tough to. I like this last time around when I beat. Well, the funny thing about the last time I beat Dark Souls was I beat the game. I beat the DLC on the night. So like that was with Artorias, who, for my money, and like this is after having gone through all the games previously before I played 2, but like, I had played, I had played the first Souls game. I played Bloodborne. I played Sekiro. I gotta say, Artorias is like the one that just like I almost like rage quit so many times. That guy is brutal in the DLC. But
that's why. That's like, honestly, I would have probably skipped playing 1 because like I know all the lore because I'm a freak who like reads Wikipedias on that stuff and like,
that's like
watches all the
you have to do that to like Souls games in order to become a real fan. You have to like find yourself on like Fextra Life and be like, what is going on with the wolf blood or whatever.
Yeah, and like I mean, I wouldn't normally do that. Like, I'm not gonna do that with like Assassin's Creed, to use that example again. But
I wouldn't recommend it. No.
Yeah, like I'm only playing that game to get to the DLC and fight Artorias because it's
the DLC
that's my
so
favorite type of fight in any game. Like I love that type of thing. So like I loved the Nameless King fight. I love Sister Frida. Just any fast humanoid enemy is so fun for me.
You'll like Gwyn then. Gwyn, I can't like. I couldn't parry Gwyn. It was funny though because like I think I did the DLC and then I beat Gwyn. Like I think we did like the the DLC first, then I finished the game, and like literally I don't know, like 20 minutes after I beat Gwyn, my son was born. So it was like
that's awesome.
It ruled.
Fucking good day.
It's like one of those things that like I can't really like. It's not something that like I could tell my family. Like they won't know why.
Yeah, no one's gonna understand that.
But it was pretty funny because like I was like, I finished that again. I did it on stream. This is great. And then like my wife called me. I was like, I gotta go. Guess like my son's coming. So like that was awesome.
Are you gonna tell your son that one day?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, like I'm gonna make sure he. So okay, wait. The question has to be asked. Did you decide to snuff the fire or maintain the fire? Did you link the fires or did you snuff them out?
So in my first playthrough of DS3 that I've done, I usurped the fire because I did the Yuria quest because I was very insecure about my ability to play this game, so I did the thing where I get hollowing levels and
smart.
I did end up giving the Firekeeper her eyes, but I didn't summon her. I want to do that the next playthrough, but I feel like that's a good personality test, like whether you either take the fire out or relink the flame. Because
and
like,
it's almost always the same, quest. Yeah. Like even in Demon Souls, where you don't really have that choice, it's because there's not really it's not quite the same story. It's before like the flames enter into it. Like I think even there, basically the question is like, okay, so do you keep this world afloat or do you just like do you toast it?
I feel like that's a good test of like what type of a person someone is, because I mean, I don't see how someone can play the entire game of DS3 and be like, yeah, baby, let's keep this going. This shit's awesome. Let's go, baby.
I was hoping
Blink
you'd
that
say
flame.
that. It's, like I don't. Yeah, getting through Dark Souls and being like, well, should I become Gwyn? It's like absolutely not. Like
No. Like Gwyn's
no one should be Gwyn.
Gwyn is the most depressing guy in the like. Gwyn's family like doesn't talk to him. like Gwyn's daughter moved away. Like,
Gwyn got like super into Q and like just
basically.
Yeah, he wouldn't stop talking about what Framped had posted on 8chan.
Yeah.
No, it's like Q's rough. Q's rough. Gwyn's rough.
Gwyn's kids moved away. Like you kill his son and he like doesn't really like know or care about it. Like Gwyn's like fuck Gwyn's life. It's terrible.
Yeah, no, like honestly, like the only person in that game that I think and like I've seen people complain about him before, but I think it's because like, and I think a lot of the complaints about, I'm terrible with names unfortunately, but like I know who I'm talking about. The Praise the Sun guy.
Solaire.
Yeah, Solaire. Thank you. Like. People complain about Solaire because like everyone's like, oh, Solaire, he's great. He's so cool. He's like the happiest bro in the game. And it's like that guy is so tragic. It's like
he's the most mentally ill guy in the game.
He's the only one who knows he really is Gwyn's son, and like all he gets for it is infested by the worst parasite in the game. So sad, man.
Wait, is he Gwyn's son? Because I thought that was like the point of Nameless King was to be like, no, this guy's just delusional. He's not Gwyn's son.
Yeah, that's a good. I don't know. Like I've always kind of like I guess I've been sort of like, let's see. I'm gonna look this up. Is Solaire Gwyn's son? Oh yeah, that's what everyone's asking the question.
That's actually the most asked question on Google.
Oh, Solaire is canonically it is. It's like it's right under there. Other than am I pregnant? Let's see. Okay, so this comes from the strategy guide. I'm reading this in the Dark Souls Reddit. This is from 7 years ago. This is some fire from back when the internet was a little cooler. All right, so this is from From's Lore Bible. The Lore Index shows item descriptions that can provide insight into different characters. The items Sunlight Parma and Sunlight Metal are not labeled as having to do with Solaire, but as having to do with the firstborn son of Lord Gwyn.
Oh, okay. I
don't know if I'm
Gwyn
did have, but
he did have like a lot of kids. That is one.
That's true. Yeah, he's got kind of like a Zeus thing going on that way.
Yeah.
Pumping him out.
Who do you? I mean, now that we're talking, like I feel like that's the thing I have the beat on the most. Who's Priscilla's mom and who's Gwyn's wife?
Whew.
Because it's like, yeah, they just conspicuously like never tell you.
Yeah, no, I never really thought about Gwyn's wife, but like, I mean, I guess like maybe the point of that is like it's all of the. I don't know, because like so like all of his kids after the fact are like, you know, you're looking at them and they're reflections or you know, mirages or whatever, but like that's not what they always were.
No.
Yeah, I don't know who Gwyn's wife is. It's Framped, right? The big old snake.
I don't know.
I wonder, that's one of those things where, so like one of the reasons that I think the like thinking about lore and this stuff is like super interesting. Like stuff like this, people have like done. Not who is Gwyneth Paltrow married to? Who is Gwyn? Who is Gwyn's wife?
They should have given Gwyn a last name. Like his last name should have just been one of those like bad German last names.
Yeah, no, Gwendolyn.
Fleischman. Yeah. It's like, why is that his name?
However, okay, so someone says, this is a Reddit, Dark Souls lore. The question is, who is Gwyn's wife? Does he even have one? It's never mentioned all that much. There's one statue somewhere in the first Dark Souls of a woman holding a baby. That's not super helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's like
Velka, goddess of sin. That's interesting.
Oh yeah, no, I've heard that it's Velka. I've heard people say that.
I could see that. That's an interesting theory, at least. I'll get behind that. It's better than like there was a statue of a woman holding a baby. Like
that's kind of spurious.
Like, come on. There's a lot of statues in the game, man. Like,
pretty spurious.
I buy Velka. So are you of the opinion that the fight with the dog is the saddest fight in Dark Souls?
With Sif? Yeah, it's gotta be, right?
It's brutal. It's super sad.
Do you know there's apparently one thing you can do where, like, if you're like you've done enough like tasks, he sniffs your hand and then cries and runs away. The fight starts, and it's like, what the fuck kind of reward is that?
The dog just
making this sadder.
You're too horrible for Sif to love, so you don't have to kill her. Oh God, that's so grim.
I don't know why anyone would do that. I mean, I guess Souls fans are like already masochistic.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's kind of I think that's kind of the point for them. God. So let me ask you, like, a lot of people have a lot of theories about this game, obviously. But I'm wondering, like, how do you understand the game, like, operating? Like, how do you understand, like, this game as, like, a thing that makes meaning? Like, what does it do to, like, produce a claim or, like, an aesthetic or anything, really? Like, I guess, like, how does this game work in your mind to, like, be memorable and interesting and, like, productive of, like, an overall mood?
Okay, so I would say it's like the first thing that I kind of like noticed about this game, right, is the size of your guy. Like, your guy's just a little guy. And I thought at first it's like, oh, you're just fighting these huge, fucked up giant creatures. And then, so this is something you only, I guess it only occurred to me after I started playing Sekiro. But so when you play Sekiro and you do the gauntlets, you do the boss rush modes, there are these variations on the bosses called like inner whatever the boss is. And it'll be like if you fought Ishin, there'll be like an inner Ishin or an inner owl or an inner whatever that's like
when you like the sort of version of them you would see like in the recollections maybe.
Yeah, exactly. And if you read their descriptions, I like learned to start reading descriptions for everything in these games.
Very smart.
And it's like, okay, so when you read the description for like Inner Father, it's like Owl's memory of him fighting his mentor and his father, one of the worst events of his life or something like that. And then it's like, I kind of got their direction philosophy. Like, the direction with Sekiro is like that you start off feeling powerless. Like, you remember in the first cutscene with Genichiro, you're like fumbling for your sword. That's like a thing Vada Video pointed out. But the final time you face him, you're like, all right, let's get this over with.
It's like it even like feels like a power fantasy where it's set on that like field with all the lightning and everything. Like, oh no, that's Ishin. With Genichiro, it's still like in that like up in the top of the palace and everything. Like, it's totally different.
But I thought that was so interesting, like creating a new boss based off the idea that our memories are faulty and we're going to build things up like that in our memory. Like, for depending on how like awful the memory is for Wolf, he's going to be like, remember Genichiro or like Owl is like tougher than it actually was, right?
Yeah.
And then I realized, so I pieced this together as I was playing DS3 and I got to the Prince Lothric fight, and it's like, you sort of realize that most of the humanoid enemies are like far bigger than you. And it's like, if you actually put the younger Prince Lothric and your character model side by side, it's ridiculous. Like, either you're about like 2'8" and he's normal sized, or like you're normal sized and he's like 20 feet tall. But the point of that is, it's like you're so overpowered by all this. Of course, you're going to see Prince Lothric as being far bigger than he actually is.
That's
or
super
even maybe
interesting.
maybe even like the same thing with Gwyn, or the same thing with a lot like Nameless King. Like the scale of all these things is huge. Just like a guy who couldn't even die right. Like they're going to appear a lot bigger as they actually are. And then I realized the direction philosophy of these games, and like everything that I used to just be like, oh, that's an unfortunate side effect. Like in Bloodborne, like when I would have to farm blood vials and shit before I learned a more efficient way of doing that. That's direction. Like with Bloodborne, everything's supposed to be scarce and frantic and collapsing in on you, and it's not necessarily a survival horror game, but it does have like those horror elements that I actually do like, even though it's not a genre I love. And with Dark Souls, it's that you're supposed to feel completely fucking insignificant. And but that's what makes everything in the game feel worthwhile. That's why like when you're able to kill Nameless King or Frida or Gale, it's like the best feeling you can have in gaming, because you've spent the 20 hours prior to that thinking about how fucking powerless you are, and how insignificant, and how like just tiny you are.
And I never really thought about it that way, like because like people talk about that all the time in terms of like the way you die so often, right? Like the idea of like die again makes you like, oh, like you're what you go through is pointless. Like, every single step you take is like another, pointless step, and you just have to like, embrace being insignificant. And I see what they mean, but like that also leads to the arguments about like Dark Souls is about depression, which I've never
don't agree with that.
I just don't like. If it helped someone with depression, that's good. That's fine with me. Like that's more power to them. But like, I've never thought the games were about depression. I've never thought the games were about anything like that, because it's like
I find that a little ridiculous. Like, I'm going to be honest.
I know I can understand that. I've never read like a good version of it, to be honest with you. It's popular, but I've only ever seen it in sort of like unsatisfying ways. But like, I think the like the idea of the difficulty not being the thing, that like the actual point of it is, you're looking at yourself as like within this world, even within the art design, is insignificant. Like that's really cool. Like I've never really thought about the art design that way, but I think you're absolutely right.
Like there are things in the game that I like would probably hate it gameplay wise in other games. Like, did you play the DLC
for
DS3?
No.
So in the DLC, in Arendelle. Arendelle is my probably favorite level of the DLC. I love snow levels, but to get to one of the bosses, to like really progress the DLC and like get really what people consider the final ending to the series, this is a necessary step. You have to like platform down a bunch of branches, and like everyone hates any platforming thing in these games because it sucks. Like,
well, yeah, the games aren't built for it.
They're not built
just
for
aren't.
it. And it's like I took a different thought on this kind of when I played Sekiro, and I realized, oh, they can do this really well if they wanted to. The point isn't like, it's not supposed to be fun. It's like another ordeal you have to go through. Like, how ridiculous are you that you have to jump down these fucking branches while being like obliterated by arrows? Like, because before that, like I sort of put into context of what I was being told before that, which is you talk to this knight Wilhelm.
Wilhelm is Wilhelm the version of the Onion Knight in that game, or that's
Wilhelm's a prick.
Okay.
Wilhelm's a huge prick, but he gives you one of the best weapons in the game after you kill him.
Naturally, yeah.
and it's after Frida sort of like nicely tells you to go home, and if you're doing the Lord of Londor ending plot line, she'll be like, you're the Lord of Londor, you have to tend to your subjects, like, please leave us be. And Wilhelm is like, if you fucking poke around here much longer, this could be curiosity could be your cross, basically. And it's like, while you're going down those branches and hating it, it's like I mean, yeah, kind of. He's kind of right.
Yeah, no, it's like I never really thought about that because, like, of course, like the platforming in Sekiro is great. Like it feels good. I never disliked it, and the platforming in Dark Souls is awful. And like there's this fight people point to in Sekiro a lot. I mean, you'll know it. It's when the you fight that knight who's looking for his son on the bridge.
I love that fight.
It's a great fight. It's a great fight because it is it's so imaginative, and you have to run into it like a brick wall a few times, being like, I can't hurt this guy. What am I supposed to do? And then you realize, like, oh, I get it. You're like, fine. But like, I've seen people talk about that as like Sekiro dealing with Dark Souls, and I get it in a certain way. But again, like, I think a lot of people like to make really bold claims about what these series are doing, as if they're not like sort of like carefully directed, like work, like the work of like a number of people doing different things. Like obviously Miyazaki's kind of the auteur, but like there's a lot of stuff going into these. Like there's a lot of themes and a lot of like, I mean, they're big projects. They're projects on their own, and so like distilling them down to like a single theme or something like that is always seems unfair to me.
Yeah.
But like there's this I've seen like articles about like, you know, that fight is like Sekiro, you know, throwing away like the history of Dark Souls, like embrace From Software embracing this sort of new samurai myth. And to me, it's more like, well, that's never been satisfactory to me. But I think one of the things that you're saying now that really kind of clicks for me is like this idea that it's more about just like showing the difference, like showing like, you know, Wolf goes into that fight and he can't hurt him, and like it does, you do feel powerless at that point, but then you sort of see the knight kind of like struggling to move, and you're like, oh, that's a constitutive part of that person. Like you can't wear that armor and move normally, and just like Wolf can't be who he is and like, you know, be like a powerhouse against someone in armor. Like both are sort of dealing with their own limitations, and like thinking about the games that way is so, I don't know, that's so rewarding.
Right, and it's like that was a wall for a lot of people, and it's interesting to see it interpreted that way as like, oh, it's FromSoft saying fuck Dark Souls. It's like, no, not really, considering like a lot of people saw it as like a sort of mid-game skill wall. But actually, that fight's really easy, and it's like the only use of this really if you get praying strikes.
Oh,
which is in the Senpo esoteric text.
I think I did get those and then just never used them. Like a lot of like special moves, I loved having them, but I never really used them.
They're actually like awesome against the knight. I never used them again because there's so much like better and more practical combat arts. But like, there's this guy on YouTube. There are two guys on YouTube who play Sekiro a lot that I watch. One of them is this guy Ong Bal, and the other is this guy Dr. Getgood. And one of them showed like just destroying the knight with that, and I always found it cool. I had to go back and try it myself. I wish that game had mini boss rush. Like, I'm very happy one of these games had boss rush, and I hope in their future projects they do more of that because I love it. Like the boss.
Elden Ring should have boss rush. I agree.
Should, like, if it ever comes out, but like
we'll see.
Yeah, we will see.
I think you're right. Like it is. I don't know. Like the bosses. You know, there is something really powerful about the bosses only showing up the once or whatever, but like, I feel like on some level, once they had that memory element to Sekiro, they were able to kind of embrace that and be like, yeah, all right, bring them all back. Like, let's do it again. Like, what are we going to do? Like, how are we going to do it this time? And like, you know, in Dark Souls, yeah, I get that it's sort of like there's something almost unsatisfactory about the idea of seeing, seeing like, well, let's say Gwyn, like the idea of like replaying Gwyn, right? There's something that feels weird about that. But on the other hand, like there's something that's really cool about it too. And Sekiro to me just feels like that moment where From was like, okay, we're going to embrace the cool stuff too. Like this is going to be serious and like the plot stuff's going to be there too, but we're also just going to like really lean into the fun of it.
Yeah. Like I'm kind of interested. Did you see that thing they said about Elden Ring where it's like they sort of acknowledge that the point of like Souls is that you feel powerless.
Mm-hmm. I did
almost
not.
worthless, and that in Elden Ring it's like basically they want you to feel like the legend, like you're Gwen,
Oh, interesting.
or you're like whoever, like
Yeah, right.
So I'm interested to see what's gonna happen with that.
I'll go along with it. It does kind of worry me though. That's like, boy, that's bold. I do like I always, for whatever reason, I've had this article. When you said that, I thought maybe it was this one. This article bookmarked from PC Gamer forever. It's not like it's a fine article. It's not like, there are like two things in it that I find interesting. Did you hear? So do you know the story? Well, let me start this. So like the article, for whatever reason, I have it bookmarked. The headline is Dark Souls director Hidetaka Miyazaki, quote, "The world is generally a wasteland," which I always really liked. Seems like all right, yeah, that's what he thinks.
Yeah, that's not surprising that he thinks that. Like, he says, I depict that from any game developer.
Yeah, personally, he says, a world that is happy and bright is something that just doesn't feel realistic to me. It may sound like I have a trauma or something, but I believe that the world is generally a wasteland that is not kind to us. That's just the way I see it. It's great. It's such a good quote.
I mean, but it's also like, okay, having played these games, it's like, there are a bunch of levels that I love in every From game, but it's like, there are very few levels I would consider not wastelands.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they're kind of like, by and large, like, disgusting places.
Even in Sekiro, where, like, you have some places that are kind of, like, out and out beautiful, most of that game is just, like, scungy. Like, gross and weird, yeah.
And even somewhere that is, like, breathtaking, like Fountainhead Palace, is still, at the end of the day, kind of scuzzy and falling apart.
Yeah, yeah. I was thinking of the areas with the apes are beautiful to me, but of course, like, you get like the sort of like tragedy and madness of the apes, and then the gun women and stuff like that. Like, that's all beautiful, but it's also so sad. Like, I mean, what do you make of that other than like, well, this is a mixed bag?
Yeah.
Which, like, yeah.
Like, Sekiro is definitely like a better to look at game. In a lot of ways. Like, it represents an interesting path forward. Like, I don't love how uniform the color palette is in a lot of DS3, even though there are some like individual levels I think are amazing. But I hope their level design goes in the Sekiro direction. Because like just Ashina Outskirts is an entry level versus like, Undead Settlement, or I guess Central Yarnum is good.
Central Yarnum's pretty interesting. Yeah, that gave me, so I actually played that. I played Bloodborne right after I finished Sekiro. So I was late to Bloodborne. So I played it after I had beaten Dark Souls for the first time and after I had beaten Sekiro. And so like, and after I beat Demon Souls too. I was just like, oh, I'll try Bloodborne now, I guess. And like, everyone was telling me how good it was, and I eventually agreed with them. But like, because I had Sekiro like so ingrained in my playstyle, I got murdered in Central Yarnum. Like, it took me like an hour to get my like sense back of how to play that game. Like, I would just like run into a crowd, which is like what I always did in Sekiro. If people were like, "This is a stealth game, Trev. Like, what are you doing?" I'd be like, "No, it's cool. Like, you'll be fine. Just run into the crowd." And like it works in Sekiro. It does not work in Bloodborne. You get killed instantly by like trash mobs. And I was just like, oh, I suck at this game now. I don't know what I'm doing. And like, that was frustrating, but like, also it's such a good introduction to the game. Like, it's such a good introduction to the way the game works that it would make you like struggle that way. Like, that's so smart.
Yeah, no, I that's something I love about Bloodborne is there's one option for a shield. I don't recommend it, the wooden shield.
No, I wouldn't. Why not? It's not very good.
Yeah, why not just have a gun?
Well, your shield is your gun, essentially. Like, the parry, even in that. Did you get at all into the procedurally generated dungeons, like those like, scummy? Okay. Yeah, those are pretty interesting. Like, and I got super into those, and honestly, like the flow and artistry of the game, I think, comes out there. Even though those are repetitive and annoying and stuff in some ways, I don't know. Like, in some ways, it just works.
I I feel like they were sort of like unfairly shit on in a few ways.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I kind of like them. Like I don't want to play them for like 2 or 3 hours in a row, but I like them as a way to get like, you know, weapons that you wouldn't normally get. Like if you want to get like a version of the Rikoyu that has different gem slots, that seems like a pretty good way to have you do it.
Yeah, for sure.
There are a lot of enemies. I feel like most enemies in that game, it's a very unique game in this way, in that like the enemies aren't like annoying. Like they're not. I don't hate. Most of them I don't hate fighting. There are a lot of enemies in Dark Souls, and I'm like, oh Christ, this again.
I actually came to love the those weird painting guys at the like I don't know why I call them painting guys. It looks like because they're wearing stuff that you'd wear if you were a painter. For a really dumb reason, I call them painting guys in the rafters in Anne Orlando, who like just like snipe you.
Yeah.
They're annoying, but I kind of grew to love them because like they're so ridiculous. Like it's just like why are these guys here and messing up my run here? This is so irritating. And it's just like that's just because that's who they are, man. Like they love being there. But yeah, no, there's like I love those areas in Bloodborne 2 because like they just have so much there. Mm-hmm. Like I don't know, there's a group of people I got to know a little bit who post under the YouTube name The Snack Covenant, which I think is good. But
I like that.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Sophie and Sin, and they like. They've done like deep like looking into the code of Bloodborne and stuff like that, and finding like there's like clear elements in there that suggest it was going to be Demon's Souls 2. There's like at the bottom of those dungeons in like certain places you can make like absolutely bizarre stuff spawn. Like I just think it's cool when there's like I never really thought about this like in terms of my appreciation of these games, but I guess it's true with Bloodborne and Sekiro. Like I like when these games get a place to explore outside of, you know, what a Souls game typically is.
Yes.
Like you get a procedurally generated dungeon or whatever. Yeah, like they just have to get to have fun a little bit.
I mean, I love that. I wish they would just like do boss rush because like if they're looking for a problem on how to like solve the issue of like replayability and that value and everything, like I got you right there.
Yeah.
I've thought of it for you. But
yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, that's a really good point. Like you could play Bloodborne forever, literally.
But I mean, like I like that they tried a new look that way. I hope they stick with boss rush though. I definitely prefer boss rush to the procedurally generated dungeons. But I don't know. I didn't hate them as much. Like a lot of people fucking hate them. Like I watched a walkthrough for it because it was like I was so lost in what to do with it at first after Sekiro, even though I think it's probably the best thing you can play after Sekiro if that's your first From game.
In some ways, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Like it'll screw you over at first. Like you'll have a hard time with it, but like you'll end up appreciating it in the right way, I would say.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I hope because there is a problem you get with these games and like specific games. Like I've had this specifically with like I had it first with Sekiro, then I had it with Bloodborne, then I had it with Dark Souls 3, where it's like you have trouble even playing like other From games. Sometimes it's like stuck with you, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, and like I think so I'm a Dark Souls 2 apologist. I don't know if you've played that game or not.
I'm excited to play it. Like Andrew Hudson, same way about it.
Oh yeah, no, I mean I agree with him. Like it is like it's a neat game. Like it's like it's so different than any of the other Dark Souls, and like it has its problems. Like it feels a little meandering at times, like a big game would. But like it just like it goes in so many different directions that like you can't help but love seeing it. I guess this is it. Like Demon's Souls, Dark Souls, and Dark Souls 3 feel like they're of a single mind in some ways. Like it's like this is a single approach. Whereas Dark Souls 2, Bloodborne, and Sekiro feel like they're variations on that theme within FromSoft. And of course, FromSoft has like a ton of other stuff too, like Chrome Hounds or Armored Core or whatever. But like those games, like those three games feel a little different, whereas like Demons, Dark Souls, and Dark Souls 3 feel like they're part of a thing. And I think like what I love about Dark Souls 2 that everyone got so pissed about is like it doesn't really feel like a follow-up to Dark Souls. It feels like Miyazaki just picked a totally different world and was like, all right, let's do this. Like Drank Lake is totally different now. Like we're just going to do this. Like you're not going to know what this place is like. There's like petrified statues that you, and there's like weird like pieces of wood you have to buy and stuff. Like let's get crazy. It's cool. Like it's a neat game for that. Like just for being different.
Yeah, no, I there's a lot of stuff with it that like looks interesting that I'm genuinely intrigued by.
I think you'll like it. Like I think it's tough to recommend to someone who doesn't already really like Souls games a lot. But on the other hand, like if you appreciate the kind of like good and bad parts of Souls, or like that's not even the way to say it, like the parts that feel very polished and the parts that feel like they're going for something, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, like that's a game for you.
No, yeah, I'm into it. I'm into the idea of playing it.
Sick. So let me ask, I got a couple of important questions. First important question, what is your favorite boss of all these? I'm going to make it extremely unfair. Of any of the FromSoft games you've played.
That's really tough.
I know it's like and like it's okay. I won't. If you change your mind in like 5 minutes, I'll appreciate and understand. But just like in yourself right now, if you had to be honest, what was your favorite boss experience?
It might have been Ishin Sword Saint. Like it has the best boss arena for an endgame fight, even though I
God, it's so good.
Yeah, even though I adore what's it called? The Kiln of the First Flame. Like it's so, the music, the sound of it, the look of it, very MGS3 actually.
You're right. It actually does kind of reflect the last fight in MGS3. That's true.
Yeah. And it's also like, it's really like, two of the three endings you can get from that juncture are pretty sad. I mean, you can get the one non-sad and therefore, like, I don't agree with it ending of the game, the homecoming ending. I think Purification is, like, the closest to, like, a real ending of Sekiro. Like, if I
buy it.
Yeah, if I, like, really had to go with, like, what's the vibe of this game, it's that. It's cutting your own head off in front of a child and then crying for the first time in your life. And just dying. But, it's, like, yeah, no, and like, yeah, Ishin is he's sort of duty bound to fight you, but there's no real ill will. He's just a weird old man, and this is like the only thing he likes doing, and he finally got to come back as his prime self. Yeah,
I love that fight too, because it's like, that's absolutely a top 3 for me. Like I have no trouble saying it. Like I think what's cool about that fight too is it is so, like it makes you, and I've known a lot of people who have just given up at that fight with Sekiro. Like it is hard. And like I think one of the things about the fight that's hard is like it just asks you to do your very best.
Yeah.
Like you have to just be able to handle every element of the game that it's asked you to do before. And if you can do that, it's fine. But if you can't, you're gonna have a really hard time with Ishin. And like I think like even like the lightning reverse, that you actually have to figure out how to do that like, which like, I mean, for almost the entire game I was like, yeah, no way I'm ever gonna learn how to do lightning reverse. Give me a break.
Oh, there's a fucking awesome thing. This is another thing you get with doing a gauntlet. There's this thing called Sakura Dance that it only costs 1 spirit emblem. Ooh. Really, like, really good just combat art in general, just to use. Like, you go super high in the air and spin around. Like, looks really cool. But it also automatically lightning reversals for you.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, you just R1, L1 when you see the lightning coming down. And boom.
That's badass.
It's pretty sick.
Again, though, I don't know if I felt more accomplished in any video game that I can remember a long time ago than when I actually pulled that off with Ishin. Like just pulling off lightning reverse. Feeling. Yeah, because it's so hard, and then you pull it off, and you're like, "Oh, I just completely wrecked this guy. This is amazing."
Well, yeah, depending on how much like lightning reversal you, how good you've gotten at it, like that third phase can either be horrifying or it's like, oh, you're just gonna give me like half your posture bar for free.
Right. It was horrifying to me until I like gave up and learned to love lightning reverse, and then like, you know, I was able to do it. I played that whole game on stream, which was like a weird experience. But
like which playthrough? First playthrough?
First playthrough, yeah.
I would have never done that. I was on New Game 4 or 5, I think.
It was a cool experience because, like, I mean, the game had just come out, so at least I had like, you know, the plausible deniability that everyone had.
Oh,
of, like,
yeah.
Well, this game's brand new. Like, who knows? But like, I think like one of the cool things about it was like you could watch everyone responding to like your particular stubbornness, and I think like in some ways, I mean, in some ways these games are like deeply solitary, and I think that's cool too. But like, it is cool to have people witness like what you are worst at adapting in a FromSoft game, in a Soulsborne game, because like that is what is always going to screw you over. Like, are you too aggressive in Dark Souls? Like, I certainly am. I'll always go for that last hit point when I know I should dodge instead. Kills me every time. And like, if you can't get past that, you're going to have such a bad time. And like that, like having other people be able to like see you like make the same mistake again and again is enlightening in a certain way.
Yeah, no. I mean, that's like the fun of these games is like, yeah, when I first was looking into playing Dark Souls after playing Sekiro, like they're so different that I was like, how do you even like get good at these? Like it just, I didn't understand what I was seeing. And the process of like understanding how you play a boss fight well, because yeah, like if you don't, all of them, Sekiro is the only one that I think like looks impressive if played super well. Like Bloodborne can because of how cool the parries are, but generally like there's not a lot you can do. But or there's not a lot that looks that cool. Like playing
sure, yeah,
playing
you could pull off some cool moves, but most of the times they're kind of like unintentional.
Yeah, or like Dark Eater Midear, like if someone plays that well, it just looks ridiculous. Like you're just rolling around like an asshole. Like if someone doesn't know what this game is, it's like they're like, okay, what the fuck am I watching?
What are you doing?
Yeah, right. Did you mean to win that fight? But yeah, no, that's yeah, they're amazing for that reason. In that, like, they're not self-evidently great. You know,
right?
Like if you had just seen them, you wouldn't be like, oh, this is an amazing gameplay experience. Sekiro, sure. No. But everything else, like Bloodborne's like 30 frames a second.
Yeah, it lags. But there's something like, I don't know. I've never actually loved that it lags sometimes, but some people will say that it's charming. I've never really gotten there myself. I would love to have it like play smoothly. I grew to
like it.
I grew to like all parts of that game, but I'm a little more like I'm kind of an evangelist when it comes to Demon Souls. Like I'm a little skeptical. I'm gonna like it on 5. Like I'm worried it's not gonna look grungy enough for me, which is like an asshole thing to say, but like I don't know. It's kind of
I get I get what you mean. I get what you mean because I think it's just as ridiculous to go the opposite direction. Like one of the reasons I'm having trouble getting into Dark Souls 1 in the way that I've gotten into 3 is I still find so much of 3 breathtaking. And I just, I guess I'll feel different when I go to Anne Orlando in 1.
Anne Orlando's amazing. I really think just like power through, you're gonna find it would be. It's hard for me to imagine that someone who really enjoys these games would not find the last fight kind of breathtaking, and with Gwyn and Artorias' whole area.
No, I'm just gonna get through Undead Burg and Blighttown.
Oh yeah, you gotta take your medicine.
Yeah, you have to eat your vegetables in these games.
Okay, so next question. if you had to, because I kind of have a feeling, I think you've given people a feeling of like, well, maybe even given people a feeling of why it's kind of silly to ask for a ranking of these games. So I won't ask you that, but I will ask, if you were to tell someone to start with one of these games, like you wanted to get someone into Soulsborne, where would you tell them to start?
That's a good question. I would say, like, I would honestly. Sometimes I think Bloodborne, because it's like it eases you into a lot of those Souls mechanics, but
Sure.
I would say like gameplay and like look wise, probably 3. Even though 3 is such a, I mean, 3 was my first Dark Souls game, but yeah, no, I guess with 3, it just. I tried playing 1 like right after I had beaten Sekiro like the 5th time, and it was like, all right, I need to play something else. And it just like felt too off for me. And now it like feels fine for me. Like the gameplay wise isn't the problem. It's just like, you know, very clearly from like 12 years ago.
Yeah,
I think it even like it even like looked a little boxy for 12 years ago. But it's I don't know, 3 just felt very intuitive for me.
Okay.
And that was after, of course, I'd played Bloodborne. But yeah, no, the upgrade system, I feel like there are fewer
upgrade system in Dark Souls 3 is really, really clear.
Very clear.
Like way clearer.
You don't have as many just like bullshit items as you do in 1.
True. That's a good point. Yeah, you're right. Like, I guess it really does depend on. I think you're right, and I think you're thinking about it like in a normal person way. Like, I think it's really easy to be like, you know, FromSofty and say like, listen, like what you need to play is Dark Souls 1 because it's like the weirdest one and it's hardest to get into, and that's the only way you'll get into these games, right? But I think accessibility is actually like totally correct. Like, I think that's like way better to kind of focus on if you want people to enjoy these games, as opposed to like, you know, feel like isolated and alienated in the way that I felt. It's sort of like you're not trusting the direction enough.
Yeah, and it's like I still like very much got that feeling of like decay and isolation in DS3 starting that one. Like I get that not everyone's gonna like read the lore like I had before, but I adequately felt insignificant and in the face of an enormous decaying dead world.
Okay, so last specific question I have for you. What would you, so like you have a pretty good handle on I think I'll go ahead and say, and if anyone wants to disagree with me, you know, you know where to find me. I think you have a pretty good handle on like how these games work in terms of their direction. Like I think your argument about how they function on an aesthetic level to make you feel insignificant is as good as any I've heard. So the question I have for you is, if you were tasked with making a Dark Souls 4 or some sort of new Soulsborne game, do you have like an idea of where you'd set it and what the story would be about? Like, how would you follow this up and continue this vision?
I would never make another Souls game because I feel like the ending in Ring City is that's perfect. I don't feel like you need anything else. And it's like, it's not like an open and shut ending. I mean, I guess you could do something because, you know, of course, Solivan in 3 was born in a painted world. It doesn't they're not really a catch-all for curing all the bad things about humanity. But, you know, I guess you could do something there. You could have somebody evil pop up in a painted world. Sometimes you just get a bad seed after all. But I think there's a lot you could do with like another Sekiro game. I feel like it's super open.
Yeah.
Like, if you choose to, you know, do the homecoming ending, there's an entire game you can have where you're escorting the divine heir to the land of the dragon.
Yep, there you go.
It's like you're still in the middle of the Sengoku period. There's a lot you could do. There's a lot of unexplored stuff. You could do a game that takes place before. Like, there was all this stuff about Tomoe. I'm surprised there wasn't Tomoe DLC.
I am too. I'm surprised. Yeah, they got. I hope they do something with that.
I do too.
It's such a neat, yeah.
Like Tomoe, there is so much stuff about Tomoe in the way that there's stuff about Artorias. You know, even I'm pretty like early mid game in DS1, and it's like you still see stuff about like Artorias and the Knights of Gwyn pop up, and you got to do that.
Yeah, right, exactly. And like it's just as I imagine doing the Tomoe stuff would be just as rewarding. No, that makes a lot of sense. I think that's that's good. So let me ask you, so like just to kind of close things off, and then anything you wanna end with. I've kept you for about an hour. I try very hard not to keep people for too much longer than that, but because it's just cruel after a little bit. But what like. So you're almost through the playable Souls games. You the end is in sight, and of course there's replays and stuff like that. Like, but how does this how has playing these games I mean, you could say it hasn't. How has playing these games changed the way that you kind of approach gaming, or even thinking about it as sort of a pastime or hobby or something that you engage with, either in terms of you don't have to think about it in terms of art if you don't want to, but you could, or just a hobby or whatever. How has it changed the way you approach it?
Honestly, it's not a new thing it brings me back to sort of how I used to think about them. Like when I was a kid and I would play more single player games. You know, as I got older and I got a PC again after over a decade of not having one, I ended up playing a lot of Counter-Strike and stuff like that, online competitive shooters, because, that's what my friends were playing, and that obviously can be really fun. But playing these games has made me rediscover what a great single-player game can feel like. But it's it's unfortunately sort of a double-edged sword a bit, because not every game is going to feel this. This type of single-player experience is very rare. And I mean, this specific kind, well, there's only one company I know that makes this specific kind of experience. I've tried
very true.
I've tried playing God of War, and it's just I mean, there's parrying, the combat is reasonably challenging in some parts, but it's not the same. I'm sorry. Ghost of Tsushima, same thing. It's there's all this. I think the combat's really fun. The game's absolutely beautiful, but it's just it just feels soulless after this.
Good use of words. Yeah, no, I think the, again, something that I keep coming back to in this conversation is one of the things that I like about your reading of these games is it gives a lot of credit to the direction. It gives a lot of credit to this game has an idea. This game has this studio has an idea. There is an aesthetic plan going on here, and it's not just hard. It's not just frustrating or whatever. There's actually a story and an aesthetic that's going on that you have to kind of work out. And to imagine that that's true is you do have to sort of say well, there's kind of a FromSoft game, and if that's your favorite kind of game, then you better hope they make more.
Yeah, I mean, thank God people are buying them. Yeah, no, that's...
Yeah.
I mean, when it comes down to it, I think the way they tell stories it's more impressive than a lot of games that have very involved cutscenes and directly give you everything. Because, there clearly is, a lore Bible somewhere in FromSoft, somewhere in Miyazaki's office.
Oh, sure.
And there's clearly, pages and pages and enough stuff that could fill up 8 hours of cutscenes per game if they wanted. But the fact that it's doled out like this means that they want you to experience it like you are there, like you are in Lothric or Boletaria or any of these places.
Right.
And that's that type of thing, that kind of very careful touch with directing and nudging people along it's really hard to play other things after that. It's really hard to play another single player action RPG.
Well, I'll let you know if I find any that stack up. I will admit I'm always chasing that high of playing Dark Souls for the first time or playing Bloodborne. It's It's very particular. It's very like I don't know. It's just so well done.
The thing that I think is so amazing about it is like, even in Sekiro, like, I mean, with Sekiro, just because I hadn't played a game like that in a while, but there was still like this initial period, like definitely like, the first 2 hours where it's like, okay, what the fuck is this? Like,
yes.
Like, wait, what? Like, am I not supposed to go there? Like, what the fuck? Like, wait, why does this button do this? This is so weird and, like, feels off, especially with Bloodborne. Because, like, I really felt like it was going to feel normal for me after Sekiro. And then...
It does not. No, Sekiro to Bloodborne. I'm glad you also did that, because that is, like, the most troubling shift you can make. Like, it like, your brain sort of, like, snaps when you have to... like, wait, hold on.
It's troubling on a technical standpoint, but I feel like they're both so fast that eventually your brain picks up Bloodborne quicker than you would Souls if you're going directly from Sekiro.
That's fair. That's fair. I would agree with that.
Yeah, it's just quick in a different way. Like, it is clunkier for sure, but it's like... I don't know. That's why I don't consider myself, like, amazing at Bloodborne. Like, it definitely was harder for me to beat, like, bosses like Ludwig than it should have been. And Abritas, like, I had to use Summon for her. But, like, for the humanoid fights, there was so much Sekiro in my blood that those were, like, surprisingly... Like, every time there was a hunter fight, like, great. But
oh yeah, I pissed off the people I was streaming with who were like Bloodborne, the people who had played Bloodborne a lot, because I one-shotted Father Gascoigne, and they were just like, how the hell do you like? No one does that. You bang your head against this for an hour. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, Gascoigne's
but I could not.
Awesome fight.
It's great. It's a great fight. I just beat it the first time. But Bloodstained Beast. I was there
that
for
almost made me quit.
Ever. I hated that. I was so mad.
But once that was perfect. I talk about great directing. Losing to Bloodstarved Beast probably about 20 times, and then finally getting it is what made me realize, like, oh, there's a different way that you play this game, with an emphasis on like iframe rolling and like strafing a character model like this. And it's like, after that, it was like pretty smooth sailing. There are obviously like. I fought Sister Frida in Souls at, like, soul level, like, 80, like, probably way before I should have. At least, like, 10 levels before I should have. But...
Yeah, that's pushing it.
But it's like... Yeah, if I was able to do that, you know, Bloodborne directed me in the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. It's show don't tell in a certain way. Like it is a game where like you have to be willing to kind of like, well, I mean, you have to be willing to like have the time to put in, and you have to have the interest. But like if you're there and you play it long enough, all of a sudden it's like, okay, I get what this is trying to tell me.
Yeah.
Like I you bang your head against the wall enough and you're just like, okay, I understand what I'm looking at here. I understand what you are directing me to do. I'm pretty sure I can get there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I really hope fucking Elden Ring comes out. That's all I can say.
It's not good that they have old George R.R. Martin working on it. King of having stuff not come out.
Yeah.
But, I guess we'll see.
I mean, FromSoft has a pretty good track record of things coming out.
They do.
But
I mean, that's true. They've been pumping stuff out forever.
But, like, yeah, with him, that doesn't help. Did you see that whole thing about, like, the GameStop cardboard display?
No, I didn't. What is that about?
Like, there's, of course, been, like, no news or, like, trailer of Elden Ring for, like, almost, like, 2 years now. And then, like, someone was like, guys, I was at this GameStop and look, and it was, like, just a coming soon placard for Elden Ring. And it's like, we don't have any, like, we had, like, so much Dark Souls 3 shit by now. At this stage in development.
This is what we've been brought to. Yeah, I remember, like, I'm still living off of the trailer that they showed like 2 years ago. It wasn't even a trailer. It was just like some screenshots.
Did you see the leaked trailer that's on YouTube?
No,
it's just a phone recording of a guy's desk. And I want to believe it's real. So you are crouching and you can jump without running it. But of course apparently they showed crouching in DS3 materials, so who knows.
And then they just took it all back.
Yeah.
No crouching for anyone. God.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it will come out. I don't know if this year. I wish it would, but yeah.
Yeah, it would be nice. I mean, I don't think it's going to come out until more people can have PS5s.
That's a good point. I mean, that's a good point. The fucking Bitcoin.
I think they're going to wait.
That's
because they want to sell it, and like they're seeing what happens when, like, I mean, Bluepoint did the Demon Souls one, but like, you know, you're looking at like what's happening with these games, and they're just, you know, dying on the vine in some ways because no one can.
Yeah, because the fucking Bitcoin people.
Yeah, exactly. Oh God, those people.
Yeah, no, like anyone who mines, but like you should 100,000% be in prison for the rest of your life.
I'm coming around on your presidential campaign. I got to admit.
Yeah.
I know I've sort of been skeptical in the past, but this is pretty.
I'm not one of those, like, you know, AOC or like Sean McElwee type people who's like, Biden's actually great, but like if he like imprisoned everyone who does Bitcoin stuff, I would give money to him, not even his campaign.
Just like set Venmo him.
Yeah, because it's like we're literally not getting Elden Ring in time because of these fucking assholes. So they can make like $13 a day running 8 computers. Like, fuck off.
God. Yeah, it's bad, man. It sucks. Like I don't want to get started.
Anyone who's horrible. Like, if you see someone with Bitcoin in their bio or name, that's a pedophile. Why else would you have it? You can buy drugs just by like being friends with the people. What's the other thing about Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean, that or murders, and like really all you're doing.
No one's a
hitman.
Like, everyone who's ever said they're a hitman is
a
like
liar or
an
undercover cop.
Or a liar, yeah.
The other part, I always thought undercover cop, and then I was listening to something the other day where they're like, yeah, you know, it's just like the murders you'd buy off of the back of Soldier of Fortune magazine.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, those people are out there too that say they'll do it, and then like clearly will not.
Yeah, just complete liars.
Yeah, exactly. You're just doing something for yourself then. Yeah. You're just showing that you would pay the money. God. Well, thanks for doing this, man.
My pleasure.
Thanks for being here. It's always really nice to get to talk to you. I feel like when the book comes out, I'm going to I want to talk to you about my takes, and I don't want to reveal them because obviously I want people to purchase the book when it comes out. But I feel like the Metal Gear Solid chapter and the Dark Souls chapter, I don't think you're going to dislike them, but I think they might be a little divisive, and I'm interested in working out our differences on them.
I'm excited to see them. I'm excited to return for those.
I would, I mean, that and that's the second thing. Like I would, maybe in the lead up, maybe right after, but yeah, you got to come back before,
absolutely,
4 years again. Since like your your Metal Gear Solid episode is one people still talk about, and it's like one of like the first 30. So you're more than always welcome. What is you guys have a lot of stuff coming up, right? Chapo does, you do.
We have that live show. I mean, we have the Stitcher show. Everyone pretty much knows about that. But yeah, no, we have a live show on. When is? When is this?
It's tonight. Oh God.
When is this? I mean, it's easy to find on our show account because like we'd always. I don't even know who has the login for that anymore, or like who got it verified or anything. But
banner, the art for it, like the art, not for the show account. The art for the show account is cool too, but the art for the show, like the live cast looks incredible.
All right, let me see. I'm trying to remember what day it is. It's not even on the Twitter. I don't know. Like, ask Chris when it is. If you're out there and you want to watch
DM
it,
Chris.
Yeah, I can't find it. I don't know. I thought it would be like the first thing on the Twitter, and it's not. I don't know. Like,
is it like
who's like running the Twitter now? But like,
just someone who does not want you to succeed.
Well, it's either like me or like Will or Chris who's doing it, and they didn't retweet this, and it's not me. So it leaves 2 people who didn't do this.
Let's see. Confident. Oh man. Yeah, no, I saw the art for it and it looked badass. So actually, you know what I'm gonna do since we're still on? I know Will tweeted some art from. Oh, wait, I think I see it. I think Will has it as his pinned tweet. Once again, the king is home. Right. Okay. It is next Saturday, but it was next Saturday on the 16th. So that would be the 1st.
Okay. The 1st. Yeah. Wait, no, it's in June.
Oh, why did it say next Saturday? Oh, till next Saturday. That's when pre-sale ends. Excuse me. So it's sorry. June 5th. I was like, yeah, it's sooner than I thought, guys.
I was about to say.
It's Chapo. Every Time I Die, We Hate Movies, Zola Jesus, Pom Pom Squad, Tinder Live, Throwing Fits, Downtown Boys, Everyone's Fave, Episode 1, Stay Inside. So, yeah, I mean, this will be a jam. Like, just like the headliners alone, everyone should check it out. And you can go to frqncy.live/frqncy1 to get your tickets. So, yeah, man, that sounds cool. And, I mean, obviously, listening to what you put out, and I know I'm not alone. Thanks for all the good stuff.
Thank you. No, thank you too.
No, anytime. Well, yeah, no, come back soon, and yeah, catch you soon.
Absolutely. Talk to you soon.
See you, man.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for listening to No Cartridge. If you'd like to support us further, please consider going to patreon.com/NoCartridge, or for a one-time donation, paypal.me/Hegelbon, Hegelbon. It's really, really helpful for all of us to be able to support the many people who make the show, myself included, but also our producers and various co-hosts, and writers and artists. Thank you so much for listening. Please remember to like, subscribe, share, any of those things that would let other people get the quality video game analysis that you've grown accustomed to.